I just want to start off this video by saying that neurodivergent educators, it's time to stop suffering. It's time to stop suffering in silence. It's time to ask for more. And it's also time to request accommodations because as we see, there are a lot more children getting identified with autism. There are a lot more children getting identified and accurately and properly identified with other, aspects of neurodivergence. And it is time for neurodivergent educators to do the same. And I say this because I find that more and more people are having a hard time asking their job for accommodations, but knowingly giving it to children. And if we're going to push this awareness, if we're going to push autism awareness and acceptance, ADHD awareness and acceptance, we also have to tell people adults need accommodations too. It's not just for children. And it also further reinforces the fact or the idea that accommodations are just going to magically end at 18 or when a child graduates. No, accommodations should happen throughout. And I think if we're going to break down this neurotypical wall, if we're going to break down barriers, we really have to start saying, yes, we need accommodations. Yes, we need people to pay attention to us. Yes, neurodivergent people exist in workplaces and we're tired of sucking it up. And we're tired of people saying, oh, well, it's just how it's been done. Like no one needed accommodations in 1950s. Yeah, but everyone's suffering and we shouldn't have to suffer too. So this video is about how you guys can request accommodations, what that might look like, and also the most important piece, what to do when you encounter resistance. So my name is Dr. T, School Psych Dr. T on Instagram. I'm actually a late diagnosed neurodivergent adult myself. I may have my own business and I'm able to have the liberty and the freedom to do the things that I want and need, but at the same time, I want to help you guys advocate and do the same because recently I have been diagnosing more and more women, especially women. I want to say adults, early college-aged adults who are, in their mid-40s or just recently had a child. So there's a lot that I've been doing, and my commitment to late diagnosed adults is to help them get accommodations because I've been helping the same for children. I've been helping teenagers get accommodations, but now I've been kind of switching my efforts to making sure that adults get accommodations. So my goal for this video is to get you what you need, to get you the help and support, how to ask for it, and what happens when you're met with resistance. So my name is Dr. T, School Psych Dr. T. Let's get into it. So first things first, we got to really identify your why. Identify why this is important and what this means to you, because that's going to be your greatest push into requesting accommodations. You first have to feel comfortable. You first have to identify what it is exactly that you need. Of course, it's easy to say I need accommodations, but when it comes to when someone says, well, what do you need? You have to be prepared to say it. And in preparing yourself and saying that, it really is sitting down with yourself. And that might also mean getting accurately diagnosed. I know a lot of people, and it's okay, I understand, but some people are self-diagnosed. And that while that is okay, sometimes it is okay for you to go formally get diagnosed by a psychologist or a neuropsychologist. Get that formal testing done so that you're able to identify the areas that you are struggling in, so that there's something on paper. And that's going to be important when we're talking about accommodation. So number one is you want to get real clear on what it is that you need. The process of getting evaluated is sometimes difficult. So that's why I say understand your why. How much longer can you go on? How burnt are you? What are your limits? Are you coming home and not being able to even engage with your family or friends? There are a lot of things that you have to say, like, I am going to be motivated to push myself through this process of getting what I need because my why is greater. And at the end of this, what does it look like? Ask yourself this question because I want you to work backwards. What does me fully thriving at work look like? Maybe that's a goal for you. I come home and I'm able to be present. I'm coming home and I'm able to set boundaries, or I have a certain goal that I want to reach at work. I want to get promoted. I want this. I want to be an assistant principal or principal of a school one day. So really identify what it is that you need, because you want to identify barriers that are getting in the way of doing that. So once you're able to identify your motivation, your why, what your end game looks like, and sometimes for some people it's just so I could go to work in peace, or I don't want to have anxiety on Sunday. I want to be someone who's fully present at work, or by the time Friday comes around, I'm just exhausted. I want to release some of that. For a lot of neurodivergent adults, you don't realize that most of the time you're overcompensating overcompensating. You're overcompensating at work, trying to say, you know what, I'll deal with the bright lights. I'll deal with the noises. I'm going to push through. All that pushing through is exhausting you. And when you're exhausted, you have little energy and capacity for a lot else. So again, really, really get to the nitty gritty of your why is and what that means to you, because that's going to be important for these next steps. So also understanding that you are entitled to it. Currently the ADA, the law that we have in place that we use again for 504s for children, the laws that we have in place say that when an employer has 15 employees or more, those employees are entitled to accommodations. 15 employees or more, just 15. So almost every school, some people have 15 people just working in the front office. So you can definitely ask for accommodations. You're definitely going to make the legal requirements. And if anybody tries to tell you not, they're already breaking the law, just first and foremost, just like they would if they were denying accommodations to a child with a 504. But similar to that process, right? Similar to that process of the 504, you need a licensed professional to step in and to properly diagnose you with a medical condition, right? So that's why I say it goes back to, yes, I understand that you're self-diagnosed. Maybe it is hard for you to take the time off of work, but that's all important for this process. If you are very serious about it, if you're very serious about your goal, very serious about your end game, and also just very serious about your mental health, right? Sometimes the goal is, I just want to improve my mental health. I want to be a human person that is functioning and thriving with my neurodivergence, with my ADHD, with my autism, with my sensory processing issues, and feel comfortable. That's sometimes all it takes. And that's why having a licensed professional evaluate you, giving an updated diagnosis, or just putting something on paper can be extremely, extremely valuable. All right. So once you get that licensed professional to sign off on a diagnosis, you guys agree on it, give you a report, then you're going to go to HR and ask for the process. What is the process of me getting reasonable accommodations? Fully understand what that process is, because some people have a letter that they want the person to fill out. Some people have a form. So there usually is a process for people to fill it out. And don't let anybody give you dirty looks or look at you crazy. Just ask for the form. Ask for the form and call it a day. Most schools are going to have these processes, whether the HR has it, whether the front desk has it, they have to have it. By law, you have to have it once you have over 15 employees, and that's a school. You're a fully functioning school. You have to have someone that in that building that's knowledgeable for when these requests come up. No different than someone asking for accommodations. If they're in a wheelchair, if they have crutches, they're going to go to this point person. So that's exactly what you're going to do. Understand that, yes, I have an invisible disability. Yes, I have an invisible issue or trait or things that bother me, but I am well within my right to ask for it. Second, you want to get clear about what it is that you need. Again, once you understand your why, you're going to go into why do I need specifically. And just to give an example, for me, I'm very knowledgeable about like the sensory issues that I have, and also the need, especially if I'm in back-to-back meetings, I need breaks to reset. If there's a lot of talking involved, there's a lot of interacting involved, that slows me down, and I definitely need a break. And that might be the same for you. It's about recognizing what areas truly burn you out, what areas really slow you down to the point where you can't even be productive during the day. So you really want to identify those areas throughout the day, the things that are getting to you, the thing, especially examining the things that aggravate your senses, because again, that's sensory processing issues, and also where you need for your brain to reset. So for example, let's say that you need spacing in between CSE meetings. It's about saying like meetings cannot be back to back for me, especially if those meetings last an hour. I need some break in between. I need a 10-minute break in between those meetings, or the way that they are scheduled has to be. Even when I'm saying this, someone might be saying, I can't ask for that. Yes, you can. Yes, you can. You have a condition, you have a trait, you have something that slows you down. You absolutely can. And if people look at you crazy, understand this is, you're entitled to it. And think back, if a child gets overwhelmed by having, if a child can't sit for 45 minutes and then on their 504 is a 10-minute break, they're allowed to have that. You're the same. You're entitled to that. So again, you want to be very specific in area and identify identify those areas because that's going to help you now request it. It's going to help you say in a way. And again, with some employers, you have to almost phrase this just like with child. This affects my education. This has an educational impact on my, on my academics, on my performance. This has an impact on my work performance. I'm a great worker, great employee, but when these things happen, my performance suffers. Here's what's going to improve my performance. You don't want me to be at a CSC meeting on a slouch, not paying attention, right? So in order for me to be really effective at my job with CSC meetings, I need 10 minutes in between to reset, refocus, and not speak to anyone. That's what I need. That's what's going to help me be the best psychologist, the best educator, the best teacher, the best OT, PT, speech therapist in the room is if I have those breaks. And that's a reasonable accommodation. Honestly, we shouldn't even be scheduling CC meetings back to back anyway, but here we are. So again, be very specific about what you need and really framing in a way of this impacts my ability to do my job. Here's how I can improve. Here's what makes me most effective. Here's what's going to make me the best employee that you know that I am at this moment. So you're going to be very specific about what you need in your request. What happens when you're met with resistance? Sometimes that does happen, but I just want to make it very clear on what your rights are. You don't have to disclose your business. You don't have to give them the full 20-page report that you get, on your recent autism or ADHD diagnosis. You just have to say, like, hey, I have a medical condition that impacts A, B, and C, and I need these things, right? We're keeping it very simple. I need this to help me improve. I need this because something bothers me and I just need this to be resolved. We don't have to get into the nitty gritty because I find that sometimes, especially in my experience, people are getting rejected because honestly, schools are nosy. They want to know. They're like, what's going on with you? Why can't you get this done? And with the shortage that's going on right now, they have the audacity. They have the audacity to even think that they can have the luxury of options. So just be very frank with them and, just be like, I'd rather keep my business private. I, also refer to the medical provider. If you want to speak to my medical provider, here's my consent. And also just have a conversation with your medical provider. Like, look, I don't feel comfortable with them knowing this and that, but can you please stress to them that I need this accommodation, right? So that's more of a last resort because most of the time they don't really reach out to providers, but that's a resort. Like, please reach out to my provider for the information if you need it. If you don't feel comfortable, refer to the guidance. Also ask them, like, why is my request being denied? Can I understand? Do you need more information? Do you need to speak to my provider? What is it that resulted in this denial? And sometimes they might say, most likely, because I recently had this issue, is that it's not reasonable or it's not an ability. And that at that point, it's just like, how can we get to that point? Do not take the opportunity to back down. Take an opportunity to be like, okay, so what will make it reasonable? Throw it right back at them and be like, if this is unreasonable to you, what can make it reasonable? Can we meet in the middle? That's when you still want to push back and use that phrase, let's meet in the middle. So don't back down. Sometimes because adults more and more are asking for more accommodations, people are just saying no or that they can't do it because they just don't want to. But again, going back to, this is a law. This is a law that affects this school and it's my right. Same process. If they were to deny a child, that parent has full ability to report them just like you do. So use all the tools that are available to you. Know your rights. Know that you are able to ask for those accommodations. Yes, they have to be reasonable, but you know what reasonable is because you're the best person to know what reasonable is because you see it. You see it in the school level. You see it with kids. So don't give up on yourself and just tell yourself, like, I know what reasonable it is. And if this is not reasonable to you, then what is reasonable? Can we meet in the middle? If we can't, I'm going to go back to my provider and see what we can do and put on this form. But please do not give up. This is new. All this pushing back, all this awareness, all this acceptance really just helps adults being able to thrive in their work environment. You don't have to suffer in silence. You shouldn't have to suffer in silence. And the more and more we push back and show people, yes, we can ask for accommodations, the more these schools have to listen. My name is Dr. T. I hope you find this helpful. Comment below if you've actually requested accommodations and got it. Please let us know. I forgot to mention unions. That's also an option too. If you've maybe had a union rep help you. I personally, my last school union wasn't as effective for me. So I don't really see some unions as being helpful. But just remember, at the end of the day, you're your best advocate. You're your best advocate. You're the best person to push through, and you can push through. If you can advocate for children, you can advocate for yourself. All right. My name is Dr. T, and I hope you take care of your mental health and continue to rise and thrive above it all.